Greetings, everybody. Thank you for waiting. Waiting for the moon to switch Sashtamsa. Now, a lot of people will think that I'm actually serious about that. Let us begin today's Canto 5 by backtracking and coming back up to where we are today. It starts with a question from Parikshit, because at the end of the fourth canto, I believe it's Parikshit or maybe it was Maitreya, somebody mentioned Priyavrata, the fifth child, fifth in the sense of how they're described in the Bhagavatam, I think fourth chronologically, the fourth child of Manu, Swambhuva Manu. They just mentioned that he eventually became the world's emperor and then achieved self-realization after the Prachetas gave birth to Daksha. So some questions about that is what gets the fifth canto rolling. Parikshit's question is, first of all, there's a question that Parikshit doesn't ask, but like, why? Why is he the emperor now? He was the son of Brahma a long time ago. The son of Manu a long time ago. Why is he only now taking it? The reason for that is that Daksha didn't take over the kingship until 3 millennia later, because he needed to do tapasya to build his power back up. And so Manu and Brahma decided that they had to go and get Priyavrata out of his meditation to become a king. But the question that Parikshit does ask is, why did he do that? Why did he go from being a meditator to being an enjoyer? And then how did he get spiritual realization from doing that? So here's the questions that are at the beginning of Canto 5. King Parikshit asks Shuka, "O sage, if Priyavrata was a self-satisfied person, why would he act like a sensualist? Sensuality is the root cause of bondage to karma and the loss of everything. Anyone who is liberated from attachment certainly doesn't deserve to become obsessed with sensual things. The thoughts of great people cannot be touched by sensuality because they are satiated in the poetic shade of the most glorious. I am confused how a person addicted to spouse, house, and children would achieve the perfection of never having their mind full of Krishna." So he says, I don't get it. Why did Parikshit go from being basically enlightened to being basically worldly, and then as a result wind up enlightened? It seems like it's the opposite order. So Shuka answers, "You spoke correctly. Swan-like devotees of Bhagavan have their thoughts enwrapped in the poetic glories of Bhagavan, the verses of which are as sweet as honey. Sometimes this may burrow inward and externally cease, but they have not entirely lost their exalted, placid status." So basically what he's saying here is, look, just because you just can't just only judge based on his externals of what his thought process is like. And then he's going to explain the details about Priyavrata, how this happened. He's going to tell the story in detail. He says, here is what happened to Priyavrata. Is this loud enough? Hang on a second. I never really checked to see if this was well placed. Yeah, no. All right, here's what happened to Priyavrata. That prince quickly understood the truth about his ultimate self-interest because of his devotion to the feet of the paramount devotee Narada. So he set his mind fully to meditation on Brahman. So that means that when he was born, he had an immediate, spontaneous interest in spirituality, not in government. So even though he was the oldest son, Manu didn't pass the kingship to him. He passed it to the younger brother, and he let this boy study from Narada. And then Narada taught him how to meditate on Brahman. His father, however, saw that the prince... Now, after a while, when he has no other choices, The father realizes, look, this Priyavrata has all the qualifications that a king needs when we need him. You may ask, why didn't Manu just take over himself? And the answer will be revealed today. Is that Manu was getting old. His father, however, saw that the prince possessed each and every quality that a ruler should have, and so asked him to take charge of governing the world. The prince's mind was completely enwrapped in unwavering meditation on Bhagavan Vasudeva, and his every activity was centered solely around that, so he hated the idea of becoming a king, even though he knew he could not refuse his father. He hated the idea because he predicted that he would be unavoidably diverted into unworthy distractions, and his spiritual aspirations would be defeated. Then, so his dad, Manu, came and said, I need you to be the king. And then Priyavrata just looked at him like, I don't know. I couldn't really say no because this is his dad, but he wasn't going to say yes either. So then Brahma, who's his grandfather, is going to come to help out Manu. Then the great self-born original divinity of the universe, who always contemplates how the creation can prosper and who understands the ultimate function of everyone and everything in it, descended from his own abode, surrounded by his associates in all the Vedas. So that's Brahma coming down from Satyalok. As he descended into the valley of intoxicating fragrance, he seemed like the moon illuminating it. Following him were the eldest immortals and hosts of divinities singing his praise. When he arrived, Narada recognized him as his father. Narada and Manu are brothers. The creator of the universe, because of his swancraft. He, along with father and son, Manu and Priyavrata, immediately stood up with articles of worship and worshipped Brahma with respectfully folded hands. The Vedas praise Brahma as the epitome of merciful qualities. After tolerating their worship, he smiled at Prince Priyavrata and spoke. So now here's Brahma's going to make 2 points. His first point is, this is your fate. You're born in a royal family. This is your fate, to get involved in government. And fate is good. Fate is the result of karma, so fate is something that you deserve. And fate is good because it teaches you what you did right and what you did wrong, and how to live right and how to live wrong. Hi, everybody. So he's going to tell Brahma's going to tell Priyavrata, you should know, you're a spiritualist, you should know that fate is a good thing and you should accept it. That's his first point. He says, my dear boy, please consider my sincere and truthful statement. He's sincere because he's speaking from his heart about the things that actually even affect him. Fate is beyond our comprehension and so does not ever deserve our derision. This is an important point. We should never deride something that we don't understand, because if you deride something before you understand it, it might be wrong. Fate is beyond our comprehension, so we shouldn't hate things about it. Like often, I don't know, like if I had a physical trainer and the physical trainer wanted me to not eat jelly or not eat toast in the morning or something, I would hate that, right? But I don't know the physical trainer's plan, so I shouldn't hate the fact that I don't have to eat jelly. Similarly, we don't comprehend or understand all the complexities of destiny.
Are you going somewhere?
So, but we understand that the person that's behind it all is benevolent, so we should accept it as being benevolent. Fate is beyond our comprehension and so does not ever deserve our derision. Myself, Shiva, your father, and this great sage, all of us always faithfully uphold whatever it ordains. There is no way an embodied being can ever undo whatever fate wants to happen. Not by rings, not by mantras, etc. Not by power or learning, not by magic or intellect, and certainly not by money or law. Not by anything you can do or by anything anyone can do for you. My dear, people have to accept, engage with, and give up the bodies ordained to them from unseen causes, whether they produce regret, confusion, fear, or happiness. My boy, its ordinances are the ropes that bind us to the qualities and actions we must accept and carry it out. Even if we tried very hard, we would not be able to escape this. We all follow the orders of our master, just as the four-footed follow the two-footed who has tied a rope through its nose. My dear, we must certainly accept what the master ordains to us. The happiness or sadness of it is really the result of our own qualities and deeds. Accept whatever the master gives, for he's like a sighted person leading a blind person. Okay, that's the point about fate. It's like a sighted person leading the blind person. The blind person might complain. For example, once upon a time there was a person leading a blind person from one town to another. And, blind people can tell where things are. So they can tell, they can hear that there's a forest, there's trees on the left, and there's not trees right around me right now. And it's hot, and the sun is beating on this blind person. So he gets mad at the person leading him. Like, what are you, stupid? Why are you walking me on this hot path? I'm burning my feet. I'm getting sunstroke in my head. Walk me in the shade. But he can't see. The sighted person can see that it's not a grove or something. It's a forest full of thorns. So you may think when you don't have full comprehension of something, you may think this fate sucks. This shouldn't happen to me. And I'm not going to benefit at all by dealing with this. Or I'm not paying back anything by dealing with this. I should run away from this. I should change this. Not let this happen, rather than engage with it. And see what it does to you. See how it transforms you. That's what you should do. So what he's telling Priyavrata is, look, you like this concept of sitting in the forest and meditating on Brahman, and you don't like the concept of going into a palace and ruling the earth. That's just your view. You don't see the whole picture. Maybe something really good is going to happen to you by getting out of this forest and going into the palace. So that's the next thing that he says. He says that the self-realized don't have to fear anything from the conventional world. Even liberated people still have physical bodies which they humbly accept as manifestations of their previous karmas. They consider it the same way we consider the experiences we had in a dream after we wake up. That's insignificant. So they did not solicit another body from the world. That is such a good analogy. Like, this is Brahma's sincere statement. You wouldn't come up with that analogy unless you actually experienced it. So what he's saying is, people who are self-realized, they still have and use their bodies, just like people who are not self-realized. But the difference is them using their body is like you using your body in a dream while you know that it's a dream, versus somebody else being in a dream and not realizing it's a dream. What is it about a dream? When you're in a dream, you realize this is only temporary. And it's really just in my mind. That's what we don't realize about our actual karmas and destinies in the physical world. It's all in our mind. The perceptions are assembled in our mind out of very basic raw data from the actual world. And it's temporary. On the other hand, a person may retire to the forest, but if they are still intoxicated with self-ignorance, the forest is very dangerous for their spirituality. What was the previous? Even liberated people still have physical bodies which they humbly accept as the manifestations of their previous karmas. They consider it the same way we consider the experiences we had in a dream. So they do not solicit another body from the world. So they still engage with their bodies. But on the other hand, a person may retire to the forest, but if they are still intoxicated with self-ignorance, the forest is very dangerous for their spirituality because they will live there with 6 enemies. In contrast, the wisdom of a person who has mastered their 6 senses and delights in the self can never be damaged, neither by the forest nor by a conventional home life. I could probably make it a little bit more colorful by saying neither the forest nor by a palace. The wise have carefully concluded that anyone who wants to conquer these 6 enemies should make that effort from within home life. First, within home life. We can conquer strong enemies if we have the shelter of a fortress. Home life depletes our lust. Let me know if you have any questions about this stuff. I know it's a review, but still. Maybe that's even more reason why you would have questions, because you've been able to think about this for a while. But you are neither type of person. You have already defeated your 6 enemies by taking shelter of the fortress that is the whirl of the lotus feet of the one from whose navel sprouts a lotus. You are commanded by that person to enjoy all the enjoyables here, so enjoy this world while remaining liberated from all attachment. Okay, now we're going to have new material. Just see if you have any questions about anything up to this. So basically, Brahma came and said, look, if you're really self-realized, then you can go into a palace or anywhere. It's not going to bother you. If you're not really self-realized, then you shouldn't be here in the forest in the first place. And third of all, it's your destiny and your fate, and you're being actually personally ordered to do this by the agents of fate, like father, grandfather, etc. So accept your fate. It's okay. Make sense? Let us get to the new material. Here's the new stuff for today. Quite a few verses, actually. Suraj asks, why is the home a fortress? Isn't it? No. The home is a fortress because you're protected by the wife or the husband in the home. Because you can take shelter. Because if you need to sleep, it's not a big deal. If you need to eat, it's not a big deal. You can do it very easy. If you live in the forest and you start to feel uncomfortable, you're screwed. And you start to need to eat, you start to feel hungry, you're screwed. You're in the forest. You don't have a pantry. You don't have a bed. You don't have friends. You don't have a wife. You don't have a husband. You're going to have to interrupt everything to do that. When you're at home, in a home, you are allowed comforts. So it's very important. It's called the emaciation. He says it in the text itself. You make the enemies weak before you attack them, so you emaciate the desires before you try to go take them out to the forest with you. The way that you emaciate them is you weaken them by fulfilling them. Because as anybody who has ever tried to fulfill any desire most certainly knows, it's way too much work. Unless you really don't belong here. That fact has escaped you. I think it's difficult for this fact to escape anybody who has any interest in spirituality at all, is that it's just too much work to get the pleasures that we want to get. The amount of suffering that goes into getting the amount of happiness that we want is equal. Or more. But you don't realize that. You don't realize that until you try to do it. The home, the regular life, the regular world with with video game arcades and shopping malls and golf courses, that's where you do it. That's where you realize golfing is too much work for the amount of happiness that it gives me. The amount of how I have to adjust the rest of my life to facilitate it. Children, marriage, family. It's so much joy, but it's so much work. So you get first-hand experience. It weakens your kama kshema. It weakens the kama, and that's when the kama is weakened. That's when it can be defeated by going to the forest. Then the home is not a home alone. Zena asks. A home is not walls. A home is the family and the relationship in the homes. Rubini has a nice question. Why was Daksha allowed to not take up his responsibility to rule the kingdom? Did he deviate from his destiny? He's going to take up the kingdom, but he's going to do so in the sixth epoch. So that was accepted, that he wasn't sufficiently powerful yet, because he's weakened by his offense to Shiva. Shiva cut off his head, and he did all that offense to Shiva when he was Sati's father. So he has to work that out first. And Manu and everybody accepted that as realistic and reasonable. Okay. All right, let's look at new stuff. But these are good questions. Thank you. Beautiful Shuka said, "Iti this is a straight sentence. Iti samabhihito mahabhagavato bhagavatas tribhuvanaguror anushashanam atmano lagutaya vanatashiradaharu badham iti sabhaumanam uvaha." Beautiful Shuka said, having thus been fully guided by the blessed devotee of the all-attractive, who is the guru of the three worlds, Priyavrata bowed his head and said, "Very well," considering his own preferences unimportant. He accepted those orders with the utmost respect. Okay? So Sukha says, "Iti samabhihito." After getting all this information, all the stuff about fate and all the stuff about the usefulness of being in a palace versus the difficulty of being in a forest, after hearing all that from a person who is very, very believable, from a person who really knows what they're talking about, from Mahabhagavata, the great Bhagavata, the greatly blessed Bhagavata, Mahabhagavata Bhagavata, the blessed Brahma, who is a great devotee, who's realized the absolute truth to such an extent that he has love for it. Tribhuvana Guru, the one who's guru for the whole three worlds. Anushashanam, Atman, he accepted the order. He accepted the information. And it says, Atmano Lagutaya. He thought, I know I don't want to do this, but what I want is not that important. Lagutaya. Lagu. Lagu is light. Guru is heavy. Lagu is light. Guru is long. Lagu is short. So here's Brahma. Brahma is Tribhuvana Guru. Brahma is the heavy one. And Brahma is telling me I should do this. It won't be harmful to me. It'll actually be beneficial to me, even though I don't understand how right now. He's Guru, so he's heavy. His opinion is important. It carries weight. My opinion is different, but I'm not Brahma. So my opinion is Lagu. That's what he felt like. It's not like he lost his opinion that he doesn't want to do this, but he thought, I don't want to do it, but that's not as important. And then Shirudaro, he bowed his head and said, Bhadham, means okay, very good, very well. Sabahumanam Vaha, and then with great respect, he accepted the order to become the emperor. The next text, Bhagwan api manuna yatavad upakalpita pichti Priyavrata naradayor avishamam abhisamikshamayor atmasam avasthanam avanmanasam kshayam avyavahritam pravartayan agamat. Manu then gathered whatever he could. Maybe ikama. Manu then gathered whatever he could to appropriately worship that blessed being. That's what upakalpita. He tried to gather whatever he could. Upakalpita maybe also means he did it mostly within his thoughts. Manu then gathered whatever he could to appropriately worship that blessed being. Apachita is to worship Bhagavan, Brahma. Then Brahma returned to his own abode. Okay, that's Atma Samavastha. Then Brahma went back to Satyaloka, his own abode. Now the abode is described as Avak Manasam. Maybe we could say it cannot be described in words because it cannot be comprehended by the mind. So I put it as it's indescribable and inconceivable. Avakmanasam kshayam avyavahritam pravartayan. So that means the creation of it, the existence or manifestation or situation of it, and the dissolution of it is avakmanasa. It's beyond comprehension. That's what he went back to, Agamat. While Priyavrata Naradayor Avishamanam Abhisamikshima. They watched without vishama, without resentment. That's very interesting. Manu then gathered whatever he could to appropriately worship that blessed being. Then Brahma returned to his own abode, the manifestation, existence, and destruction of which is indescribable and inconceivable, while Narada and Priyavrata looked on without resentment. Without resentment? What does that mean? It doesn't necessarily mean lovingly or happily, but it means without resentment. So they could be upset because they had plans. Narada was teaching Priyavrata all about Vishnu and Brahman, how to meditate and realize the absolute truth. And Priyavrata was practicing and meditating. They had plans. And Brahma and Manu came and screwed up all those plans. So they could be annoyed. But this word is, they're not annoyed. They're not happy, but they're not annoyed. Because they realize this is something that that has to be done. It has to be this way. Manorapi parinaivam pratisandita manorata surarishi varanumatena atmajam akiladhara mandalastiti guptaya astapya swayam ati vishama vishaya visha jalashayashaya uparamita. This is a really nice poetic sentence. Ati vishama vishaya visha jalashayashaya uparama. I'll look at this question, Jonathan, right after I finished reading this translation. Manu had now fulfilled his ambitions with the help of Brahma. With Narada's agreement, he entrusted his son to protect the well-being of the entire earth and decided to retire from sensual pursuits, considering them toxic waves and a very dangerous ocean of poison. So this is why Manu was not capable of becoming the king directly, because he's old and he wants to retire. He already did his time dealing with family and children and taking care of people and taking care of the world. Now he wants to concentrate on his own self-realization, which is ironic. It's actually this Priyavrata could be really disturbed by that. But he wasn't disturbed. What? You want to take me out of my meditation so that you can go into yours? But it's befitting, because Priyavrata has all the qualifications to be the king, but Manu doesn't. He's old. Of course, chronologically, Manu is even older than Priyavrata. But Priyavrata, by my parsing of this situation is that Priyavrata, by doing yoga under the guidance of Narada, did not age. You basically age a lot as you're spending your physical energy. But when you're not spending physical energy, you don't age very much. Okay. Let's just go over the words, then I know there's a question waiting there about Satiloka. There's not too much fancy stuff in the words. Manu arapi parenaivam means Manu through somebody else. Pratisandita, he achieved his Manoratha, what he wanted to achieve. What he wanted to achieve was to get his son Priyavrata to take responsibility for ruling the earth. And he was able to do that by parena, by somebody else, by Brahma. Then Surarashi Varananumatena. By Suravashi Vara, which is Narada, Anumata, by his agreement, with his agreement, he made his son Atmaja the Akila Dhara Mandala Stiti Guptaya, the protector or the holder or the embracer of Akila Dhara Mandala Stiti, the whole face of the earth. Thank you. Would you still be my biggest fan if I told you that Lady Gaga song that popped into my head? Paparazzi. So now he's fulfilled his responsibility, actually. This is the important point. Manu has now fulfilled his responsibility, made sure that there's another king to take care of the earth for another billion zillion years of an epoch. And now his responsibilities are done. His responsibilities are done. Priyavrata's are just beginning. So he takes the attitude, I no longer should engage with the Vishaya. Vishaya is different from Ashraya. Ashraya is the holder of consciousness, the conscious being, and the Vishaya is the thing that the consciousness projects into. That's how you get an actual being, is by having consciousness project into some kind of a thing. So Vishaya means the stuff that we observe, the stuff that we're awareness, the stuff that we become one with. So he says that Vishaya is Ati Vishama. He thinks that Vishaya, the observable things, are Ati Vishama, very dangerous, very toxic, very poisonous. Ati Vishama, they're very toxic. Why? Because they pull us out of our actual being. They have that potential to pull us out of our being, away from our being. Ati Vishama Vishaya, Visha Jalashaya, in an ocean of poison. These objects that you interact with when you have a regular life, Manu says, they're very, very, very poisonous. Now look, 2 seconds ago, Brahma was telling Priyavrata, there's nothing wrong with conventional things. Now, 2 seconds later, Manu is saying, these things are toxic waves in an ocean of poison. Now, if you want, you can just close the stream, close the book, and just think, these people are crazy, they contradict themselves. If you want, you could just be done with it. But if you really want to realize the truth, is that different things are for different people. What's good for person A is not good for person B. What's a medicine for person A can be a poison to person B. And what's a poison to person B can be a medicine to person A. And that's how it is with not just chemicals or food, but also with lifestyles. So Manu, his responsibilities are done. Priyavrata, he never took up his responsibilities. He avoided his responsibilities. His father allowed it. That's the difference between the two. For a person who has not fulfilled their responsibilities, then the objects of the world are the means for which we can fulfill our responsibilities. They're the means for our dharma. But for a person who has fulfilled their responsibilities, the objects of the world have nothing further to give. So they would only be a distraction. Do you understand? Now, Jonathan, finally your question. Is Satyaloka beyond all mental comprehension or only beyond the mental comprehension of humans? Well, since Brahma lives there and people live there, I'm sure it must be not beyond everybody's comprehension, because otherwise how would they live there? So it must be to those people who have not been granted access there. Now, number 23. Ihaha iti havavaha sajagati patir. It's hard to read this one, it's not poetic. Iti havavasa jagati patir ishware chaya dhiniveshita karmadikaro kila jagada banda dvangsana paranubhavasya bhagavata adipurushasyangri yugala anavarata dhyananubhavena parirandita kshayashayo vadatopi manuvardhanam mahatam mahitalam anushashasa. Accepting his master's order to become emperor, Priyavrata engrossed himself in conventional responsibilities. With his heart in uninterrupted focus on the 2 feet of the blessed original person, the influence of which completely destroys attraction to anything else in existence, even though he was already pure, ruling the world as an offering of respect to his superiors made him even more pure and renowned. This is a great statement. So let's just go through it. Ishvara Ichaya, by accepting his master's order. Then he became karmadikari. Adhiniveshita, he engrossed himself in it. In karmadikari. In karmadikari means a person who should be doing karmas. A person who should be doing deeds. He was not previously a karmadikari, he was a jnanadikari, a person who should be doing meditation. But as a result of being ordered to do so, he fully accepted the life of a karmadikari. But just like Sukadeva had said previously, a self-realized person may sometimes look self-realized on the outside, but may sometimes not look self-realized on the outside, but you can't necessarily tell what's going on inside. So here's an illustration of it. He accepted his role, he engrossed himself in his role of conventional responsibilities, but his heart remained uninterrupted focus. So look at the way it's described here. Akila Jagad Banda Dvangsana. The banda, or the attractiveness of the bonds to Akila Jagat, everything in the world, the attractiveness of everything in the world, Dvangsasa, is cracked, broken, hit like a drum by Paranubhavasya, by the power of Bhagavata Adipurushangri Yugala, of just the feet of that beautiful, attractive being. So by having his concentration on that beautiful being, nothing in the world pulled hard on his conscious attraction, although he's in the middle of it. You see, I've noticed that the people who are really funny, they can tell really funny jokes, etc., are the people that are not really hung up on things. Whereas the people that are really hung up on things, everything is very serious to them. And it's not very funny. It's not very enjoyable. So when you don't have a desire to exploit something, then you can sit right in the middle of it. And it doesn't agitate you to take an exploitive relationship towards it, because you don't have that in you. A magnet can only pull on iron, it can't pull on aluminum. So if you don't have iron in your heart, then iron things can't pull you. You can't pull on gold. So that's what Priyavrata was like. And then it says, even though he was already pure, ruling the world as an offering of respect to his superiors made him even more pure. There's there's a level which could be called pure, but there's purity beyond that level as well. There's a level which can be called perfect, but there's more to expand beyond the level, which is the basic level of perfect. Okay? Let's go on to the next newest. Now, so he engrossed himself in conventional life. Now he's going to have a family. So today I'm just going to read you the names. I'm not going to translate the names. Maybe next time I'll get to names. He then married Barhishmati, Prajapati Vishwakarma's daughter. This goes to your question, Zina. What if somebody was in the home alone? That's not a home. So the Priyavrata didn't say, you want me to rule the government? All right. I'll sit in the palace and meditate and all things. No, it's I'm going to be a king. I'm going to be a king. I'm going to make sure I have heirs. I'm going to have a family. I'm going to do things that kings do because that's what it means to be a king. If you're going to do it, do it. So he married Barhishmati, Prajapati Vishwakarma's daughter. Vishwakarma, you know, as the deity for Chitra. So Barhishmati must have been very, very beautiful. He then married Barhishmati, and Barhishat was one of the other names. Actually, this is not an ancestor. He married Barhishmati, Prajapati Vishwakarma's daughter. With her, he had 10 boys who were just like him in their mentality, character, skills, deeds, beauty, strength, and kindness. Wow. He says he had kids. 10 boys. 10 boys means he was up for it. He, according to the Veda, the person who's more excited in the copulation will generate more hormonal fluid, and that will influence which sperm gets to the egg. And so you can tell whether the child was a boy or a girl, which partner was more excited. So he was doing his responsibilities with his full heart and attention, not half-assed, not half-hearted. He then married Barhishmati, Prajapati Vishwakarma's daughter. With her, he had 10 boys who were just like him. Yeah, he had kids. Why should a spiritualist have kids? Because it's great. You make more people who are like you. If you're a spiritualist, then that's a good thing. With her, he had 10 boys who were just like him in their mentality, character, skills, deeds, beauty, strength, and kindness. Finally, his youngest child was a daughter named Urjaswati. And now, how about the boys? What were their names? The 10 boys were named after Agni, the god of fire. Agnidra, Idmajiha, Yagyabahu, Mahavira, Hiranyareta, Gritaprishta, Savana, Midhatiti, Viltihotra, and Kavi. Zena's saying, what if somebody lives in 4 walls, but doesn't have a family? Then they're not family. They're not a family person. That doesn't mean they don't have some role. So I'll see if these names are important, and if so, I'll let you know what those are next time. Now, 3 of these 10 boys are going to be mentioned now. 3 of the boys, Kavi, Mahavir, and Savana, were disinterested in sensual life. They're like their father. All the 10 are like the father and the mother, I'm sure, but particularly like the father, that means some of them are going to be wanting to do meditation and not government. So 3 of them were disinterested in sensual life. Even from childhood, they began to understand self-knowledge. So they partook of the way of supreme swans, an entirely spiritual lifestyle. That's called Paramahamsa. By this lifestyle, they became... Now this is very interesting. Hiranya is such a cute word. What does it mean? Hiranya means golden. Hiranyareta means golden seed. So it's one of the names of fire. No, swan is like the soul. Go back to the story of the citizen and the swan explaining the 2 swans in the lake. So this is interesting. Let me read you this. Tasmin nuhava upashamashila. So these 3, their behavior was upashamashila. Their behavior was upashama, very placid. Paramarsha, they became very, very great sages with very, very peaceful behavior, peaceful character. Sakala jiva nikaya vasaya. Bhagavato Vasudeva Bhitanam. They realized that all living things, Sakala Jiva, Nikaya, Vasaya, reside within this one substrate. All living beings reside within one substrate. That substrate, they came to realize it as Bhagavan Vasudeva. The all-attractive thing, the thing which is really wonderful. Vasudeva, which means the brilliance of consciousness. And it's also the word for Vishnu and Krishna. Vitanam sharanabhutasya srimach charanana indita smarana. So they start to focus themselves on that being. Then Parama Bhakti Yogano Bhavena Paribhavitanta Hridaya Adigate. Their hearts became saturated by the paribhav, or the power of Bhakti Yoga, the power, the force of love. And Bhagavate Sarvesham Bhutanam Atma Bhute. Bhagavan, who is the essence of all living beings, they saw Atma Bhute in his own right. Not just as the essence of everything, but as a distinct being, Pratyak Atmana. Directly, visually, sensually experienced. Evatmanas tadatmayam avishena samiyu. And at that moment, they realized, they made themselves non-separable from him. So in a smooth translation, by this lifestyle, they became paramount sages with placid character. The power of pure supreme bhakti yoga pervaded and claimed their hearts, and their thought was uninterrupted upon the beautiful feet of the foundation of all living beings, Bhagavan Vasudeva, the shelter that protects from any fear. That's Bhita. They directly and distinctly perceived the all-attractive essence of all living beings and joined themselves to him so that they became identical and indistinguishable from him. So he had 3 additional sons with another wife, named Uttama, Tamasa, and Raivata, and they would become emperors of the earth's epics. So for some reason he had 10 kids on purpose. 10 boys and 1 daughter. And then when 3 of them were like him and went directly to an ashram and started meditating, and he thought, I need 3 more. Maybe his first wife was tired, so he had 3 more with his second wife. And that's Uttama, Tamasa, and Raivata. Uttama, Tamasa, and Raivata will become the kings of the 3 consecutive epics after Priyavrata. Each epic needs a king ruling it, and these epics last for a very, very long time. Okay. Any questions? That's it for today. Okay. Thank you, everybody.